What is going on, everybody? It's the France, and we are for episode number 100 of UnScripted for your Sunday, December 29th, 2019. The year is coming to a close with only a few shows left, with Raw being one, Power, and AEW Dark having a couple shows left of the year. So, let's have ourselves a look back on the year with the UnScripted Awards for 2019. These are going to range from Match of the Year, Superstar of the Year, Worst Promo, Best Promo, and so on and so forth, and many other iterations. But the very first thing that we need to do, before we get to any of this year's, is we need to harken back to last year in December. Last year in December, the night after TLC, Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, Seth McMahon, and Triple H all came out there and said, "We are the authority." This, my friends, is the biggest lie of not just last year or this year, the biggest lie of the decade. They promised change. They promised new matches, new superstars, change in direction. We were going to be the ones to tell them exactly what they wanted to hear. What did we get? Shane McMahon, Tag Team Champion. Shane McMahon, WrestleMania pay-per-view. Shane McMahon on every single pay-per-view for the first 6 or 7 months of this year. Shane McMahon dominating the headlines. While Kofi Kingston was the WWE Champion, Kofi Kingston was maybe in one segment a week. Shane McMahon was in 4, 5, 6 segments a week between Raw and SmackDown. So the worst and biggest lie of the decade goes to we are the authority, from Shane McMahon, Vince McMahon, Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon. Now on to the awards. We're going to open this up with worst promo of this year. This is somebody who we can't stand. It's like nails on a chalkboard listening to this person talk, and it's channel changing garbage. And the nominees are Baron Corbin, Brandy Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Lana. Baron Corbin has been a top guy in WWE for the past 9-10 months because Vince McMahon has gotten pretty much a hard-on for this man. His promos are cringe, his promos are terrible, that's not believable. He doesn't sound like he's trying to come off as a tough guy, and he's not. Brandy Rhodes, the wife of Cody. I'm going to harken back to something that AJ said in her pipe bomb a couple years ago. Talent is not sexually transmitted. Brandy Rhodes cannot wrestle, she cannot act, she cannot cut a promo. She is a part of this whole Nightmare Collective, and we have a couple of awards, I believe, for them later on to talk about. She just comes out, spews her bullshit, nobody believes a damn thing about it. And Brandy Rhodes just comes off as insincere, unbelievable, and somebody who needs to go back to doing what she does best, accompanying her husband to the ring. Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is on this list because over the last few months, he has been, this is just not in WWE, he has become a condescending prick, a company man. He has hit the Roman Reigns level of bad. Just comes out there, he blames us, he blames the fans, he doesn't want to take responsibility to anything, he doesn't want to go out there and give the real person at fault, Vince McMahon, and comes out there, all his promos, he sounds like a whiny, condescending prick. And somebody who went from the internet darling to the internet's worst enemy. Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns comes on this list because his promos, in my opinion, just are absolutely bad. These, of course, as I'm talking about these are in no particular order of how I do it. I'm just going to announce the winners. But Roman Reigns, he comes out, none of his promos sound legit. He doesn't sound like somebody who's going to go out there and kick someone's ass. He just sounds like somebody who's reading from a script. Yes, outside of Brandy, all 4 of these other people are on WWE's payroll, and they are scripted heavily. So that's a little bit of a pattern there. And then, good old Lana. Lana, had she not returned this year, would not be on this list because we had not heard her cut a promo this year until we had the Rusev, Lana, and Lashley segment that we've had over the last 3 months. So unfortunately, she opens her mouth and out comes shit. Like literally, she opens her mouth and you change the channel. You open your mouth, she opens her mouth, and you're just like, you just want to rip your ears off. It's that bad. So the winner of the worst promo of the year goes to Lana. This woman has come out and just sounds like she's like, and it's probably a lot of it has to do with why she, like when she was with Rusev in their first run, she was absolutely fantastic. The Russian accent sounded fucking real. She just came off as this bitch who just like loves Russia and said fuck the United States. Now she's coming out, you can tell that she's not giving her best effort. She's not putting her best foot forward. She's going out there and she just doesn't care. She doesn't care. She's going out there and just hammering herself through it. And we'll talk about one of her segments of this year is up for another award later on. But every time she has opened her mouth, it's mute the channel, mute the TV, or change the channel. If her segments are on and you hear a knock at the door and your friends are coming over, you change the channel immediately. Everyone else, I guess you can stomach so much, but Lana is so bad that she is channel changing worthy, and she is definitely one of those people that you are just you just want to just forget about. Her husband's not on best promo of the year, but I gotta shout this guy out. Rusev is definitely in I don't give a fuck mode. He goes out there, he is having the time of his life. You can just see with the way he acts how he is just, you know what, I'm probably not going to be signed with this company, but I'm going to go out there and have fun with it anyway. Lana doesn't give that off. Lana gives this off. It's like, ugh, I have to read this garbage. I have to go through this. I have to pretend my marriage isn't happy and healthy. I have to do this shit. Fine, I'll do it, but I'll put the half-ass effort in. And she just comes off so piss poor. So, moving on to our next best promo. This, of course, has to be somebody that comes out there and sounds legitimate. It sounds like it's coming from their heart. They don't sound like they're written off of a script. They can go out there and think things on the fly if they have to. And the nominees are Cody Rhodes, Chris Jericho, Daniel Bryan, MJF, and Adam Cole, baby. Cody Rhodes is quintessentially the best babyface in the company in AEW. He is just one of the best promos in the company. Yes, him, MJF, Chris Jericho are the three best promos of that company. They come out there, they just speak from the heart. It comes off of their head. They say what is on their mind. If it comes to fate, like Cody going up against Chris Jericho, he comes out there and gives you gold. Chris Jericho comes out and anything he says is gold. MJF comes out, anything he says is absolute gold. Daniel Bryan. I'm not talking about really much Daniel Bryan now, and this is like Daniel Bryan when he was a heel and WWE champion. Everything that came out of that man's mouth was just absolute. You could tell he was not being a script written for him. He was saying, pretty much, he was telling the truth about what he was saying every time, but he was saying it in a manner that made you want to hate this guy. And then Adam Cole, the leader of the Undisputed Era, the guy who comes out, says what he's going to do, and then backs up and does it anyway. Adam Cole is rightfully one of the best promos of this year, and anybody who thinks otherwise, you are out of your mind. This was a really tough category to get through. Of course, Daniel Bryan and Adam Cole were not going to be one of the winners because they are good at what they do, but they are not elite in what they do. I mean, yes, Daniel Bryan as a babyface kind of came down a little bit, and Adam Cole's come down a little bit too because of the move to USA Network and being scripted a little bit more. But Cody, Jericho, and MJF are definitely the three best promos of this year. And the winner of Best Promo of the Year is Cody Rhodes. Could it be anybody else? This guy is the best storyteller of our generation right now. He comes out there, and the time when he was going up against Shawn Spears, you just got invested in that story. The promo he cut, after Chris Jericho tore into him and calling him a millennial and making fun of him. This guy going out there, making fun of MJF, calling him a Chris Jericho wannabe, and everything else. It's just so much good from Cody Rhodes, and I can't wait to see what he does next year. This guy is absolutely the best out there. Cody Rhodes is my best promo of the year. Now we move on to our next category, disappointment of the year. This has to be something that fans were hyped about, fans look forward to in WWE or AEW. Built it up, which, okay, this is just WWE. AEW really hasn't had a disappointment of the year, so this is a WWE only category. And it's just something that we didn't see coming in. It was like, oh, well, that was disappointing. And the nominees are Brock Lesnar winning the Money in the Bank Money in the Bank briefcase, Kurt Angle's retirement match, the Wild Card Rule, women's tag team titles, and the women's main events this year at the big pay-per-views. The Brock Lesnar winning the Money in the Bank was one of the most disappointing things of the year. You had an 8-man Money in the Bank ladder match, and you only had 7 guys competing. These 7 guys went out there and killed themselves to get a chance to be a to be the WWE or Universal Champion. Mustafa Ali goes to grab the briefcase. Brock Lesnar's music hits, and he just stands there. Oh my God, is Brock coming? Oh my God. And Brock comes in, kills everybody, and wins Money in the Bank. Very disappointing, but it wasn't the worst. Kurt Angle's retirement match. And from the minute it was announced to the minute it happened, we all wanted John Cena because it would have made sense. Kurt Angle was John Cena's first opponent. So it would have made sense to have John Cena beat Kurt Angle's last opponent. Did that happen? No. We had Baron Corbin versus Kurt Angle in a useless 2-minute match just so Baron Corbin can say, hey, I beat Kurt Angle in his retirement match. That was... It was a boring match. The match was disappointing. The whole thing was disappointing. And it wasn't a really good... It was a big disappointment this year. The Wild Card Rule. In the middle of May or April, Vince McMahon comes out, and because Roman Reigns, like literally the week before, Roman Reigns was drafted to SmackDown in the Superstar Shakeup. USA obviously was not happy about this because they wanted Roman Reigns to be their guy. Why would you give Fox? Why would you give SmackDown Roman Reigns when he's the big star? Everyone I guess sees Roman Reigns as the big star, and he's not. But Vince McMahon comes out. Of course, Roman Reigns puts on Twitter, I have some unfinished business to do on Raw, so I'm going to show up on Monday, even though I'm on SmackDown. He shows up, Vince shows up, New Day show up, Daniel Bryan shows up, and Vince McMahon just sits there, has his hand in his ear, and goes, oh, I have an epiphany. Wild Card Rule. And this thing went from three men or women from Raw can go to SmackDown, 3 men can go from SmackDown to Raw, and then it became 4 when Lars Sullivan came to Raw and beat somebody up. Well, that lasted about 2 or 3 weeks before it was like Raw was, and this was the thing. During the beginning of the Wild Card Rule, Raw was sticking to the rule. Like 3 or 4 superstars from SmackDown would come to Raw. But when we go to SmackDown the next night, there would be like 5, 6, 7 people from Raw on SmackDown. And it messed up the brand split. You didn't know who was on Raw, who was on SmackDown until we had the hard reset in October. It was a major disappointment this year. The women's tag team titles. Bayley and Sasha Banks, for months, did everything they could to push these things into existence. And then they were brought into existence. The right women won those titles at the beginning. They gave them to Bayley and Sasha Banks. They even went to NXT and said, hey, we might come back and defend these tag team titles. Then we get to WrestleMania, and the biggest tragedy of these titles right out of the gate was you gave them to the Iconics. And then the Iconics were either not on TV, or we were losing match after match after match after match. Only winning matches against jobbers who want, like, jobbers from the local indie scene. But if it was somebody on the main roster, or on the roster, they would lose. Then they gave the titles to Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, and gave them a little bit of a heartbeat, and then they lost. And then they gave the titles to Sasha Banks and Bayley, and they lost. And then they gave the titles to Bayley and Sasha Banks, and gave them a little bit of a heartbeat, and then they lost. And then they gave the titles to Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, and gave them a little bit of a heartbeat, and then they lost. a little bit of a pulse. Then they were given to Asuka and Kairi Sane, who hold them to this day. But if you look at back in February, if you can't say that the women's tag team titles, and the way they were introduced to, and Alexa Bliss has the moment of bliss. It was started, I think, at the middle of last year or something. And she's just like, here you go, the women's tag team titles, as if they weren't even a big deal. That should have been something you would have had, like Trish and Lita coming out to an episode of Monday Night Raw with a big surprise, and they show off the women's tag team titles. We're going to have a tournament going into WrestleMania. And me and Lita, like Trish and Lita would say, we're putting our hat in for these titles. We're going to wrestle, and we're going to challenge and try and get to the finals to win the women's tag team titles. And the best thing you could have done for these titles would have Bayley and Sasha Banks on one half of the bracket, Trish and Lita on the other half, with the 4 women meeting at WrestleMania in a tag team match for the women's tag team titles. But nope, no. And the reason the Idiotics won the tag team titles in the first place was because WWE was hoping and praying Nikki and Brie Bella would be able to come back and have a feud with the Idiotics. So when WWE found out that was not going to be able to happen, they said, well, we don't have anything for him. We'll just let him hold on to him for now until we think of something else. Yes, so again, the women's tag team titles was a massive disappointment this year. And the fifth thing that was a disappointment was the WrestleMania, Survivor Series, and TLC main events for the women. From the Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, we went from one of the hottest angles between Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey to a convoluted mess that culminated in a match at WrestleMania that did not live up to the hype. And Corey Graves, on his After the Bell a couple weeks ago, said that Charlotte Flair carried that match. Give me a fucking break. Nobody carried that match because that match was not savable. It had to do with the fact that it was on so late, the women were nervous, yada yada yada. It was a disappointment. Fast forward to Survivor Series, you had Bayley, Bayley, Shayna Baszler, and Becky Lynch in a triple threat match, non-title match. The match went too long, and the match absolutely sucked. So, and then we had so it was a major disappointment as well. And then we have TLC's main event, which was, of course, the tag team champions for the women versus Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. A problem with that match and why it was disappointing is the fact that Kairi Sane got injured midway through that match. And whoever was supposed to be in charge of this shit did not get her help. The referees didn't go and check on her. It wasn't until the culmination of the match almost the end of the match, where Becky Lynch finally was able to talk to Kairi Sane and roll her to safety. If somebody would have been doing their job, they could have fixed this real easily so it doesn't look like Asuka was beating both women. You could have easily had, because Charlotte had a chair, Kairi Sane was trying to run away from her, have Charlotte chase Kairi to the back, and they disappear. We don't see them for the rest of the night, and then it's 1-on-1 for the women's tag team titles. That would have been the way to do that. You would have had to change some spots, you would have had to miss some spots, whatever. It is what it is. So, after talking about all these, and the fact that these were all disappointing moments, the winner is Brock Lesnar winning the Money in the Bank. I kind of expected everything else to happen that happened this year. I mean, the women's is a disappointing thing, but it really wasn't that disappointing simply for the fact that that's just WWE's booking. They try to sabotage the women as much as they can. The women's tag team titles was something that should have never happened, and nobody really seems to care about them. The wild card rule was always going to be a massive disappointment, so nothing else there. Kurt Angle's retirement match is something that you get over the next day. This was something that pissed so many people off. Yes, we got the Brock party for a couple weeks, but that's no excuse. You had a chance at Money in the Bank. They had a chance at Money in the Bank to make a new star. Mustafa Ali was just sitting there while he waited for Brock Lesnar to come down and take the Money in the Bank briefcase. When Brock Lesnar's music hits, if I'm standing on top of that thing, you know what I'm saying? Fuck this. Take the Money in the Bank. I got it. Mine. See you, bitch. But no. Brock Lesnar winning Money in the Bank to me was the most disappointing thing of this year. And there was a lot of disappointing things on this year. Surprise of the year. This has to be something that you didn't expect and just was like, wow, didn't see that coming. And the nominees are The Fiend, the first ever Firefly Funhouse, Finn Balor's return to NXT, Nia Jax in the Men's Royal Rumble taking a super kick, 619 in RKO, and Edge at SummerSlam 2019 hitting a spear on Elias. I'm just going to have to get you down to this one immediately because there is no contest. The winner is Edge hitting a spear in 2019. I can explain everything else and go into the details, but this was something that nobody would have called. Nobody would have seen Edge, who has been retired for 8 years because of neck injuries, neck problems. One of the last few things that he did that caused him to retire early was a neck injury. So the fact that this guy went out there, stood corner to corner with Elias and hit a spear out of nowhere just was the most surprising thing to me in 2019. Yes, The Fiend was crazy and surprising. Yes, the Firefly Funhouse was like, wow. Nobody saw Finn Balor going back to NXT, but that's fine. That's something that could have been expected anyway because they went to the USA Network. Nia Jax in the Men's Royal Rumble. Yeah, that's a big surprise too, but this was something that nobody would have called. Nobody would have seen coming. If you would have told us at the Royal Rumble at January 1st, 2019, that Edge is going to at SummerSlam, Edge is going to hit a spear on just anybody, I would have said no. WWE is not going to allow that. The guy's not going to be able to be cleared. He's been injured. He's been out for 8 years. If he takes one bad bump from a spear, he could end up being paralyzed. So the biggest surprise of 2019 to me is Edge with a spear at SummerSlam. Best segment of the year. This one is very, very this one is something that is very subjective. For Raw, SmackDown, AEW, NXT, and MLW, New Japan, anywhere in the world, you can look at a segment from any of these shows and be like, that was an awesome segment. Nothing can top that. My nominees are MJF responds to Cody Rhodes' challenge, Cody winning his match with MJF, Jericho's parody of Cody's hype video for Full Gear, MJF and Jericho's promo face-to-face, and Wardlow's debut. Rhea Ripley celebrates her NXT Women's title win with the NXT fans. Now, if I was doing a WWE segment of the year, I would have to say Rhea Ripley celebrating her NXT Women's title win with the NXT fans would be one of those top guys. And people wonder, why didn't you put Roman Reigns versus coming back from leukemia on this segment? That's coming later. That's in a different category. Trust me, that's in a different category. But this one is really hard to go through and explain everything. So, the winner of Best Segment of the Year, Cody wanting a match with MJF. This was like any of the ones from AEW could have went into this. The hype video parody was fucking fantastic. MJF's response to this promo was fantastic. Jericho and MJF pretty much ripping off what Jericho did with Kevin Owens in 2016 was fantastic. But Cody coming out there, winning this match more than anything, giving up his car, $50,000, his watch, which is his watch, his shoes, just going out there and winning this guy badly enough that he'll give up all this stuff. And just Cody, this is why he's the best promo of the year. He goes out there and he gives you a reason to feel bad for him. Feel like, yes, this guy needs to go kick MJF's ass. And it needs to happen. This was, to me, nothing topped this year. Now moving on to our next category, worst moment of the year. These moments have to be something that just would have left you a bad taste in your mouth. That wasn't a whole segment, just a moment in time that you just felt disgusted by WWE or by somebody else. Kofi Kingston losing his title in 7 seconds. I wouldn't say this is a full segment, I just say this is a moment, and this was bad. Kofi Kingston won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 35. Was one of the most protected champions of this year. The only other protected champion from WrestleMania to now has been Becky Lynch. Hardly ever losing, maybe being pinned once or twice in this entire title reign. Loses it in 7 seconds because WWE wanted to get the title off of him and put it on Brock Lesnar instead of letting them have a 10-minute match or a 5-minute match on SmackDown. Seth Rollins making a fool of himself over and over and over. This isn't just one moment. This is just Seth Rollins. I would say this moment has to be Seth Rollins going out there on Twitter and having a feud with Will Ospreay, where he just makes a fool of himself, saying he's the best professional wrestler out there, WWE does everything great. Will Ospreay saying, hey, I'm alive over here. And then Seth Rollins just taking offense to Will Ospreay, who's over in Japan. And he just can't let it go. And so it gets to a point where he's like, well, I make more money than you. And that was where, boom. That entire moment of him going up against Will Ospreay, I think is when the descent into madness for Seth Rollins really began. Because before that happened, Seth Rollins, as somebody the fans couldn't stand, really wasn't a thing. There was still people who, everyone still sort of loved Seth Rollins. But as soon as he started going after Will Ospreay and making a fool of himself, the dude is engaged to be married to the Twitter troll queen. And he makes a fool of himself every single time he goes out there. From podcasts, blaming the fans, not understanding why the fans don't like him anymore. Everything that Seth Rollins has done this year in moments have been really, really bad. Speaking of Twitter, Jordan Miles. Jordan Miles, after going off on WWE and the fans and having a hate-laden video go up that he quit WWE because of a shirt that was black that had a mouth that said Jordan Miles, and he thought, oh, this is racist. Jordan Miles was definitely just the moments of Jordan Miles on Twitter, and then he quit wrestling. He quit wrestling after one show in MLW. All I gotta say is it's great that he's no longer part of wrestling because we don't need scumbags like him. The cuckening moments of the year have been some of the worst. People keep on talking about it only being twice. Everyone seems to forget Drake Maverick. Drake Maverick and his wife and the pursuit of the 24/7 championship. Mike Kanellis and Maria Kanellis over who's the father of Maria's baby. Lana, Rusev, Lashley. All three of those have been terrible, terrible moments in WWE this year. And then that Hell in a Cell match. That Hell in a Cell match where Seth Rollins hits a ladder on top of a prone Bray Wyatt with a little hammer after Bray Wyatt tried to impale him with a big hammer. I'm just going to have to get this one out of the way as well because this one is definitely the truth. The winner of this one, worst moment of the year, Seth Rollins getting a referee stoppage in Hell in a Cell. This was absolutely unforgivable. The Fiend is beloved by everybody. The Fiend going out there, doing what he's supposed to do, being this unstoppable monster. The Fiend goes out there and you put him in a match that he should not have been a part of yet. So WWE really backed themselves into a corner, didn't they? And what did they do? The referee said, stop, don't hit him with this hammer. This is a Hell in a Cell match where anything goes and I can't stop anything, but you hit him with that hammer and I'll ring the bell. He hit the hammer on the ladder and the ref rings the bell. What is worse about this is as soon as that cell comes up and the EMTs are in there, Bray Wyatt wakes up because he's a horror movie villain and fans are screaming, chanting, please restart the match. This is bullshit. AEW refunds. And Vince McMahon is just in the back going, ha ha ha, I know better than they do. and we just got nothing good came out of this. It was so bad that WWE, and here's the thing, the draft was the next Friday. The draft was next Friday. The only reason The Fiend did not win the championship inside Hell in a Cell is because Brock Lesnar was WWE champion, and they needed to draft him to SmackDown. So it looked like Fox had Brock Lesnar before they would have him quit to go to Raw. So they had to keep the Universal title on Seth until at least Crown Jewel. Crown Jewel. I think it was Crown Jewel. Yeah, Crown Jewel. So this moment happened this year because WWE fucked up. Instead of taking the title off of Seth like they should have, they took The Fiend, and The Fiend that you saw, and The Fiend that you loved, and The Fiend that had this big aura around him before the Hell in a Cell. Yes, he's still loved, and he's still one of the best things they have, but there's cracks on that aura, and they're going to get bigger and bigger. And I'm telling you now, when we get to WrestleMania and The Fiend is beaten by one spear by Roman Reigns, all these cracks would have happened because of one thing. WWE just can't help themselves. Moving on to moments of the year. This one has to be something that the fans want, like brought the fans the most joy. Was something that was weeks, months, or weeks, minutes, it was a big build to something. It was a build from something. The nominees for this one are Roman Reigns coming back from leukemia, Johnny Gargano winning the NXT Championship, Jon Moxley makes his AEW debut, Cody standing in the ring at Double or Nothing, doesn't need a partner, doesn't need a friend, he needs his older brother. And Kofi Kingston wins the championship, the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. All 5 of these moments were huge for this year. Were big. The fans loved them. Except for, it was funny because going back and watching Cody needs his older brother. It's funny how when he's starting this promo and he says, I don't need a partner, fans boo. I don't need a friend, fans are booing Cody. Because for some reason the fans in Vegas can't understand what he's going to probably say. But as soon as he said, I need my older brother, the fans just blew the MGM Grand off of the roof off the MGM Grand, which it fell back down and was ready to blow off with the AEW debut of Jon Moxley later on in the night, which was fucking fantastic. He comes through the crowd, comes down, Death Rider to Chris Jericho, Death Rider to Kenny Omega, or they fight to the top, and then a Death Rider on the poker chips. Absolutely 2 of the best moments in one night. You don't get that very often. Johnny Gargano winning the NXT Championship. This one is definitely not the winner because of the circumstances. Had this been Johnny Gargano winning the NXT Championship from Tommaso Ciampa, the only reason that this wouldn't be number 1 is because what is number 1? What is the winner? But this was absolutely awesome. This guy's journey from not really being a part of NXT to being the NXT champion, from fighting for his job the year before, fighting to keep his job around that time in 2018, to happen to go to war with his former best friend, and turning to the dark side a little bit, and then coming back, winning the North American Championship, wanting to go to take over New York and beat his foe once and for all to win the championship after 3 classics the previous year. Kofi Kingston winning the WWE Championship, what can you say about that? You can't say anything other than the fact that this guy, 11-year journey, winning the WWE Championship, something that if it wasn't for an injury from Mustafa Ali, probably would have never happened, but the fact that it happened, you have to give it up to this guy. You do. But of course, the number 1, and if you didn't think this was not going to be number 1, since I'm going to have to say this, the winner of the moment of the year, of course, is Roman Reigns coming back from leukemia. No matter what your feelings are for Roman Reigns, but Joe coming out in 2018 in October in just sweatpants, jeans, a t-shirt, nothing like he's going to wrestle, has the Universal title, comes in and says, hey, I have leukemia. I have to go away and fight this stuff again because it came back. Telling us a little bit more about himself, humanizing himself a little bit. This wasn't Roman Reigns out there on the mic. It was Joe on Hawaii. And then we have February come around. WWE had to get Roman Reigns back for WrestleMania. The build from, the use of Roman Reigns this year is not debatable right now. It's the fact that at this time, nothing that could happen this year could top what happened that night when he came back and said, I'm in remission, y'all. And he was back to go out there and do what he does. Roman Reigns, quite clearly, the moment of the year. Next up for our awards, we have the most overused talent. This talent is somebody who the fans are sick of seeing that WWE or AEW uses way too much. Most of these guys that nominees are going to be, of course, WWE. There is one from AEW that I think you could all agree with. Brandy Rhodes, Dolph Ziggler, Roman Reigns, Baron Corbin, and Seth Rollins. Brandy Rhodes is in the most overused category, or overused talent, because she is just a waste of time on the roster. She, as Cody's valet, was a perfect spot for her. She is not a good wrestler. As I said earlier, talent is not sexually transmitted, and unfortunately, that is what we have to deal with. This is that she is a talentless woman. Outside of she was a pretty decent ring announcer at WWE, but other than that, she's not really good at anything else other than being the valet of her husband. So, Brandy Rhodes just being overused. Get her out of there, get rid of the Nightmare Collective, so on and so forth. Dolph Ziggler. This guy has been overused simply because, even going back to last year, they saddled him, they saddled Drew McIntyre with him, then you had the Dogs of War, then you had the little mini feud with him and Drew McIntyre. Now he's Baron Corbin's right-hand man, and it's just way too much Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler is definitely somebody they are overusing. Roman Reigns, I put in this one because they are starting to ramp up the build towards what Roman Reigns is going to be. What we saw before he went away with his leukemia is what we're going to start seeing, and they're starting to make Roman Reigns more important than the Universal Championship. What you saw on Friday with him dealing with Baron Corbin, they set that as a high priority over Daniel Bryan versus The Miz versus Baron Corbin to see who will go off to face The Fiend. Baron Corbin and Seth Rollins. These guys are just two overly used guys. Seth Rollins, once again, was one of the most beloved guys in the company last year and at the beginning of this year. Going into WrestleMania, he was the most beloved guy on the Raw roster. Then he got a little mouthy online, got a little too childish, and became just one of the worst out there. He is the face of Monday Night Raw. When you know who the faces of the brands are, when they have the opening video packages, and the very last person you see is the person that WWE wants to push towards. On Raw, it's Seth Rollins, and on SmackDown, it's Roman Reigns. When the video packages come to an end, the very last thing you see is Seth or Roman doing the Superman punch to the ground as the thing explodes. That's that. Baron Corbin is your winner of this for the simple fact is this guy has been, since he won the King of the Ring, has been in more segments week in and week out than Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dolph Ziggler combined. I swear, Shane McMahon left after that first episode in October 4th, I believe. Shane McMahon left, and his multiple segments went to Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin was on at least 7 or 8 segments on Friday nights. Just from the opening segment to arguing with Adam Pearce in the back to being told, hey, Roman Reigns isn't here anymore, you're going to have a match. And it was just segment after segment. You had Dolph Ziggler talking to Mandy Rose throwing down that fruitcake from Otis. He comes in and is like, hey, I need to talk to you. There's too many segments for Baron Corbin. This guy has got to have has to be done. This is enough of this. So, Baron Corbin is your most overused talent. Most underused talent is somebody who just isn't used right, in anyone's opinion, including myself. And the nominees are Andrade, Ricochet, Aleister Black, Leva Bates, and the entire main roster tag team division. Where do I start with the main roster tag team division? It's laughable at best for WWE. The Usos are MIA. Apparently they're coming back soon. You have the Viking Raiders who are facing jobbers. You have the AOP who are Seth Rollins' henchmen, not really doing anything. The OC, an embarrassment. You have the New Day. You have the Revival, who apparently Scott Dawson Dash Wilder is injured again. You don't have enough for Raw and SmackDown tag team champions. If it wasn't for the fact that they're on Fox and USA, these divisions needed to be on one brand or merged, like you do with the women, that the tag team championships are there, but you only see them face each other at pay-per-views. Leva Bates. I had this rant on yesterday's show, when I did a year in review. This woman is too talented and she's too talented and too skilled and too good at what she does to be saddled with this librarian gimmick. What else can I say? They just, having her stuck with this librarian gimmick, losing week in and week out is just not fair to somebody who has talent as she does. Aleister Black. What is Aleister Black doing on the main roster? What does he do? He goes in, he sits in a room and says, I want somebody to pick a fight with me. Then he has a fight. When that fight's over, back to his room, I want somebody else to pick a fight with me. What the hell does he do? He had purpose in NXT. He doesn't seem to have purpose in WWE's main roster on Raw or on SmackDown, where he was earlier this year. Ricochet and Andrade definitely are not the winners here because they are been highly underused, even though I know Andrade just won the United States Championship on Thursday at Madison Square Garden. Still doesn't take away from the fact that both of these guys have just been spinning their wheels. After Ricochet lost the United States Championship earlier this year, in which it looked like he might do something, just spinning his wheels, doing nothing. He's the WWE's resident superhero, but he does nothing. Random tag team matches with the Street Robbers, random tag team matches with the Viking Raiders, random tag team matches against AJ Styles and the OC. Andrade didn't call it a feud for the majority of the year. Rey Mysterio feud for the majority of the year, doing nothing. But who could be the winner of this one? This one might be a little controversial, but I'm going with Leva Bates. Again, this woman was blue pants in NXT. She had herself defined what she did. She was a comedic portion of WWE when she was helping out NXT. Now she's in an AEW and they're just misusing her. She's miscast, being saddled with this librarian gimmick. I feel that if they used her right, she would be a major player in the women's division, and the women's division in AEW needs all the major players they can get. And the fact that they're still misusing her is a crime against somebody like Leva Bates. Worst special events from WWE of the year. I could have added Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen, but those were not as bad as The Shield's Final Stand, which was a glorified house show. Smackville, a glorified house show. Starrcade, a bastardization of the name Starrcade and a glorified house show. Crown Jewel, Super Showdowns, glorified house shows. Which one of these could be worse than the worst? I wish I could say Super Showdown because of that Goldberg and Undertaker match, but I'm going with Crown Jewel. Honestly, quite honestly, you could say all five of these were bad, but I'm going with The Shield, but it means Super Showdown. The fact that you brought in Tyson Fury to take on Braun Strowman, which wasn't bad from what I've seen. I've seen Red and whatever, but nothing can excuse you for what you did with Brock Lesnar and Cain Velasquez. The match was so short and so bad that they replayed it the next night on SmackDown when everyone was stuck in Saudi Arabia outside of a select few. So, just the fact that you had those two go out there, and instead of giving us a barn burner of a 5-10 minute match, you gave us 2.5 minutes with Cain Velasquez just tapping out as if it was nothing. I said before, and I'll say it again, Cain Velasquez signed a contract for a couple of years to lose to Brock Lesnar. That was all he was brought in for, was to be able to give Brock Lesnar his win back that he needed to get his confidence or whatever. But Crown Jewel, worst because of that, because of those two matches right there. We are up to worst gimmick of the year. Baron Corbin, the Nightmare Collector, the Dark Order, Shorty G, and the Wild Card Rule. King Corbin, of course, is from him winning the King of the Ring. The Nightmare Collector, can someone please tell me what this is? I still don't get this. We're like a month into this, and I don't get why. Is this a cult of women? She's like growing a cult of women. Did you realize that the Dark Order, which again was another bad gimmick, and just look at that ending on the last episode on the 18th for a bad gimmick. The Dark Order and the Nightmare Collective. So the Dark Order is the cult for men, and the Nightmare Collective must be the cult for women. Is that what I'm getting at? Shorty G, this guy, Chad Gable, go back and watch the King of the Ring after that first match. When he comes out after that, his stock was rising with the fans. The fans were loving Chad Gable. They were loving and getting a part of Chad Gable. As soon as he went to Shorty Gable and then Shorty G, watch him come out from now. The guy gets crickets. Nobody finds this fun. Chad Gable, a former Olympian, is getting just nothing. The fans are like, oh, this guy, we love this guy, it's Chad Gable, and he wants to lessen himself to be Shorty G. That's absolutely disgraceful. The name Shorty G is disgraceful to anybody of shortness, and it's not something WWE should do. But of course, WWE is going to WWE. Then of course, the winner of this bracket, the Wild Card Rule. This was absolutely stupid from the start. We knew it was going to be a failure. It was just a dumb way to try and get ratings to go up. It did not fucking work. Ratings are continuing to slide. Yes, there'll be a bump every once in a while, but it wasn't something that you're seeing ratings go up to what they were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The Wild Card Rule was one of the worst decisions WWE has ever done. And I didn't even do an award or put in a nomination of the no commercials, no wrestling endurance commercials, because I totally forgot about that till now. That's how bad that was. But the Wild Card Rule is definitely something that WWE will have to live to regret, and fans hopefully will never have to see again. Best gimmick of the year: MJF, The Fiend, Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, and Io Shirai. Now, this is a really hard one for most of this. Io Shirai put in there because the Joshi Judas is an awesome name. She goes out there, she looks and acts like she lives her gimmick, it looks like. Awesome stuff, but it's definitely not the winner. Jungle Boy is loved by the fans. Luchasaurus is loved by the fans. The Fiend is loved by the fans. MJF, though. This dude is not a gimmick. I say gimmick of the year. This is MJF. This is Maxwell Jacob Friedman. This is who he is. He is a dick. He is an asshole. He can go out there and act like he's going to be... There was a video, I don't know when it actually happened, but there was a video of him proposing to, I guess, his girlfriend, that he ended up poking her in the eye and shit, and that was fucking awesome. Him trying, I believe, Starcast earlier this year, when he was banned from the area, banned from one of the interview things, was sitting there in a wig, hat, and everything, and there was video of him getting carted away. He is just so good at what he does. He is the fastest rising star for a reason. MJF is the gimmick of the year, and honestly, he might be next year too. Who knows? Worst debut of the year: The Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny. Huh? Who the fuck were these? The one thing that was a problem with The Butcher, and the Blade, and the Bunny is that JR didn't know who it was. I don't think Tony Schiavone was there that week, but JR didn't know who it was. We didn't know who it was, but Excalibur did. And Excalibur just didn't want to divulge who the hell they were. that was not a good thing for these guys. It's like you have these come out and you give them no hype packages. We didn't get a hype package for the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny until the next week when you had Ali, the only one of the three that anybody, any mass audience member knew, says that they're here to cut off the head of the snake, which of course is Cody. In the same line of the Dark Order is, the Butcher and the Blade, and the Bunny, of course, is the Dark Order. They made their debut, I believe, in Double or Nothing after Trent and after the Best Friends, I'm pretty sure, won a match. They came out and destroyed them, and it was like, who the hell are these guys? I didn't know them. I guarantee half the audience in AEW didn't know who the Dark Order were. They didn't even have a name yet. It was just two guys, Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. They didn't have a tag team name until a couple weeks later. Not a good debut. The Nightmare Collective. Creeping on this in a bunch of worst of these. Liv Morgan's Makeover, which is a terrible debut because it's pretty much shot for shot and done more of Emelina. The only reason I think this might be better than what they did with Emelina is it feels like Liv Morgan wants to do what she's going to do with this gimmick compared to what Emma wanted to. Emma didn't really want to be Emelina. So maybe Liv Morgan coming back is going to be a good thing next year. But the Liv Morgan video packages have been very cringeworthy and terrible. And to round out the worst debuts of the year is EC3 on the main roster. God, this guy I feel bad for. Ethan Carter III in TNA Impact Wrestling. EC3 had a cup of coffee in NXT. Really didn't get to do much. Was in the first ladder match for the NXT North American Championship and didn't really do much after that. But there was a side-by-side comparison of EC3 where he's doing his entrance in NXT and he's doing his entrance on main events. And on the NXT one, this guy is lively. He's ready to go. He's ready to have a fight. He's ready to go out there and kick some ass, take some names, and try and get the winner's purse of a match. When you get to the other one, he doesn't care anymore. He's just pointing like he just looks like I'm here, whatever. I'm gonna point at these like I'm supposed to. Yeah, whatever. I'm here to take an L and go from there. The worst debut of the year, though, has to be the Nightmare Collective. Hey Brandy, I saw on your Twitter that you didn't think you were gonna win anything. Well, guess what? You won the worst debut of the year. What the hell was this? These guys come out during Dark, was it? Or was it a pay-per-view? It was the Full Gear pre-show. B. Priestley lost to Britt Baker. You get a spinning back fist to B. Priestley, and then some of her hair cut off. And you have Awesome Kong sniffing her hair. What the hell is this? What is this? Makes no sense. We've seen video packages, but they're not really telling us what this is. We didn't find out it was a Nightmare Collective till like 2-3 weeks ago. And it just still makes no sense. It's just not good television. I don't know what they're thinking. So the worst debut of the year goes to the Nightmare Collective. Now we move on to the best debut of the year. This is AEW's debut on TNT, Wardlow's debut, Jake Hager in the Inner Circle, Damian Priest, because I think his debut when he made his first entrance was absolutely fantastic, and Jon Moxley. Unfortunately, some kind of mix-up. I don't have a picture of the winner for this one, but the winner is Jon Moxley, as, yes, everyone expected it to happen, but it blew the roof off the MGM Grand. And, yes, Jake Hager's debut in the Inner Circle was crazy. Wardlow's debut was good too. Debut for TNT was good too. And of course, you had Damian Priest, but nothing sent shockwaves around the world than Jon Moxley making his debut just weeks after his contract was up and about a month after the last stand for the Shield. Future Star of the Year, this has to be somebody who isn't well known, but somebody well known to the masses, but somebody who has really, bookmarked themselves to being somebody worth your time next year. Chris Statlander, Hikaru Shida, Dominic Dijakovic, Luchasaurus, and Jungle Boy. Now, Chris Statlander is somebody who just made her debut a couple weeks ago. She is going to be going for the women's title in 2 weeks, a week from Wednesday, because of a prior commitment. And somebody who I had no knowledge of and am really intrigued, and she is actually really good for what she does. I would have put her in the Breakout Star of the Year category, but she just came around, so you can't, she only made her debut at the beginning of this month, so you really can't say she's a Breakout Star of the Year. She's only had a couple matches, but a future star, yes, very much so. Hikaru Shida, I think she is the best woman they have on the brand in AEW, so, and somebody who I didn't know of anything until AEW, and someone who will definitely do wonders in the years to come. Dominic Dijakovic, everything that he has done this year has been breakout worthy. The guy has gone out there with Keith Lee and tore the house down. I would love to see those two become tag team champions one day. It would be awesome. And he is definitely somebody who is going to be the future of NXT. I could see him maybe a year, like 6 months to a year maybe from now, being NXT champion, if that is in his cards. Maybe North American champion. But he is going to be doing something next year. Luchasaurus is loved by everybody in AEW. The fans, as soon as he got injured, it sucked for the fans. We missed out on this guy, and him and Jungle Boy winning the tag team titles. The moment he came back, boom, the crowd went crazy. Anytime he tags into a tag team match and does what he does for a guy his size, it's on the levels of it's on the level of Dijakovic, but bigger. And then Jungle Boy, what can you say about Jungle Boy? This guy is absolutely just fantastic. I can't wait to see what this guy does in 2020. Again, somebody else I would put in Breakout Star of the Year, but he really didn't do much. And he didn't win anything. He never won a match. Luchasaurus just won a couple matches here and there, won one with Marco Stunt, but Jungle Boy never really won anything. The Breakout Star of the Year is Luchasaurus. I can't tell you how many times I see this guy come out there and and everyone gravitates to him. He is the future of AEW. Him being world champion in about 6 to 9 months, it would not surprise me one bit. Him and Jungle Boy winning the tag team titles would be a welcoming thing. I could definitely see him being one guy that everybody looks forward to next year. Breakout Star of the Year, somebody who has left an impact on the wrestling world in one way or another. Keith Lee, MJF, Hikaru Shida, Matt Riddle, and Chad Gable. Yes, I'm breaking a little bit with the future stars, putting Hikaru Shida here too. But she, again, I think is the best that they have in AEW. And honestly, I think should have been the first women's champion for them. Chad Gable had a breakout year with that King of the Ring that he had. Unfortunately, his start has cooled off because of the rename the Shorty G. MJF, what can you say? This guy is he is the future. He is a breakout. He broke out in more ways than one in AEW. In the turn against Cody and thing that has followed since. Good stuff. And then there's Keith Lee. This guy is just good stuff. Unfortunately for him and Matt Riddle as well, both of them guys, they are breakout stars in NXT, but they haven't broke out enough more than MJF. What can you say? This guy is the future. This guy will be the guy of the year next year. He could be the male superstar of the year next year. Just not there yet. MJF is one of a kind, and MJF is somebody he's like 23 years old or something like that. This guy's got his whole future in front of him. This guy is going to be somebody that is going to be somebody we talk about for years to come, and I can't wait to see what MJF does. Let's continue these awards on with the worst feud of the year. This is a feud that nobody wanted to see more than one match, and WWE kept it going, or one segment, or whatever. Roman Reigns versus Baron Corbin is continuing as it is. Seth Rollins versus Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin versus Chad Gable. Seth Rollins versus The Fiend, Rusev versus Lana and Lashley. And the winner, because I don't even want to go over any of these, is of course The Fiend versus Seth Rollins. This was absolutely some of the worst, cringe-inducing garbage we have ever seen. From Seth Rollins cowering in the corner week in and week out to that Hell in a Cell finish, everything in between, this was absolutely one of the worst feuds we have seen all year. Now, the feud of the year, I'm really racking my brain of what to call, what to go with. We had Tessa Blanchard versus Sami Callihan. I don't watch much Impact, but those guys have been feuding all year long, and it's good stuff. Candice LeRae versus Io Shirai. NXT versus the Undisputed Era. Cody versus Chris Jericho, and Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole. I don't have a photo for the winner on this one because this one, I've really been racking my brain because it's between Sami Callihan, Tessa Blanchard, Cody and Chris Jericho, and Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano. And I do have a picture of a winner for a later one, but I'm going to have to say it is going to be Chris Jericho versus Cody Rhodes. It didn't last that very long. It was a one-match pay-per-view feud for now, but just the promos and the build-up for that match for 3 weeks that it was absolutely great fucking television. Tessa Blanchard and Sami Callihan, they're still going on. Their feud is going to go up to Hard to Kill, where Tessa Blanchard will win the men's World Heavyweight Championship for Impact Wrestling. I have no doubt about that. But in Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano, they had 3 matches. But it just felt like their matches, from the 2 out of 3 falls to a singles match to a 3 Stage of Hell's match, it was like the second one was the best, the first one was the second best, and that third one was just way too convoluted and got way too messy, and I think brought their feud down. Cody versus Chris Jericho showed you how to have a one-match feud that went for 3 weeks. Awesome build, awesome promos between these two, the right kind of heat. They did not have a Pier 6 brawl between the two until we got to Full Gear. So Cody and Chris Jericho wins feud of the year. Booker of the year. This one is for pretty much outside of Ring of Honor because I don't know who runs it and I don't really know who runs Impact, but I'm going to put them in this as well. Vince McMahon, Impact Management, Gato for New Japan, Triple H, and Tony Khan. This one to me is a no-brainer. Tony Khan is not the winner. It is Papa H, Triple H. This guy has been running NXT so well over the last 5 years. NXT has been it's like 7 years. 7 years NXT has gone from having to book Raw and SmackDown stars to get people to sell tickets to the hottest ticket in the game. WWE, and I'd say Vince McMahon books Raw and SmackDown. Triple H books NXT. So, and his matches, his shows, his takeovers have been some of the best shows. The Takeover has its own category in these awards, just because they are that goddamn good. Triple H just edges out Tony Khan because Tony Khan is brand new. We haven't had a big sample size enough for Tony Khan to get it for him to be the winner. So Triple H is your Booker of the Year. Promotion of the Year is our next one. This is for Impact and New Japan, AEW, Ring of Honor, and WWE. That is your 5. And yes, I'm putting NXT in that WWE because I would give NXT its own category and own selection in this if it wasn't under the WWE banner, but because it's under the WWE banner, it is unfortunately going to be added to the WWE part of the category. And because of that, the clear-cut winner is All Elite Wrestling. They have done something that New Japan, Impact Wrestling, and Ring of Honor could not do and bring competition to WWE. NXT is the only saving grace for Vince McMahon's company. The only saving grace. AEW wins this one by a landslide. New Japan might be in second, but it's a far second. Ring of Honor, actually, in my opinion, Ring of Honor is probably below WWE because they are just falling so fast that I don't think Ring of Honor might last more than another year. Pay-per-view of the year, outside of a takeover, as those will be coming later. AEW's All Out, New Japan's Dominion 2019, Impact's Homecoming, AEW Double or Nothing, or AEW Full Gear. AEW wins this category with a full... wrong one. That's not... Oh, that's the wrong one. We're supposed to be show of the year, and you just saw the show of the year. Impact Wrestling's Impact, NXT, NWA Power, AEW Dark, and AEW on TNT. As you just saw, because I messed up where I was at, NWA Power wins, and the reason I say NWA Power wins because AEW, yes, is supposed to be an alternative. It's supposed to be different from WWE, but when you look at AEW, it is a better refined version of WWE. A real alternative is NWA Power. Why? Because they are going out there. Yes, both shows, TNT, Dark, and Power, give you some of the best promos in the fucking game. You're not going to find a better promo than a Nick Aldis, a James Storm, a Eli Drake, a Chris Jericho, a Cody Rhodes, an MJF. Those 6 guys right there are six of the best promos we see. But NWA Power to me is an alternative. It is different. It is something that you're not seeing on Monday, on Tuesday, on Monday, on Wednesday, or Friday. It's something different, and it's something to me that is absolutely probably the best show we have. Now, the pay-per-view of the year, that is going to be Full Gear. Why I picked Full Gear out of All Out and Double or Nothing is because it feels like that All Out and Double or Nothing and All Out feel like it didn't. They weren't fine-tuned to the way that they were at Full Gear. Full Gear, outside of that main event, which is still controversial to everybody, felt like it was more well-rounded. Double or Nothing All Out was too long and just felt like they were just throwing people matches out there just to get people on the show. The Full Gear had stories built behind it. We had reason for those matches happening, and we had 6 weeks of build for these shows. Full Gear wins show pay-per-view of the year outside of a takeover. We're going to go with the takeovers here in a bit, but we want to talk about female superstar of the year. Who had the best year for the women? Candice LeRae, Becky Lynch, Io Shirai, Shayna Baszler, and Tessa Blanchard. I did not put Rhea Ripley on here simply because she had a good end of the year, but these women, for the most part, if not all, had like 6 or 8, 9 months of a good year, or all of a good year. Tessa Blanchard, by far, in a way, has had the best year for a woman. Main eventing a pay-per-view in an intergender match over the World Heavyweight Champions, and it's not a bad match. It didn't suck. It didn't disappoint. Going out there, having intergender matches, showing that intergender wrestling can be viable in professional wrestling on a weekly basis if they wanted to do that. Not having comedic intergender matches, going up against the Sami Callihan, Madman Fulton, Dave and Jake Chris, the Chris brothers, and just going out there and holding her own in that main event with Sami Callihan. Going to go to Hard to Kill for Impact Wrestling and wrestle for the Impact Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. Nobody in the women's division on any brand has had a better year than Tessa Blanchard. Fight me for it. Male Superstar of the Year, Chris Jericho, Cody Rhodes, Adam Cole, Will Ospreay, and Sami Callihan. This one was definitely a hard for because I was just going back and forth. Who should win this one? Will Ospreay, always going to be in that conversation for male Superstar of the Year or male Wrestler of the Year, simply because he is good at what he does. He is the best gaijin to come into New Japan. The fact that he moved to New Japan, to Japan to be closer to the promotion that pretty much gave him notoriety in the wrestling world. I'm a fan of Will Ospreay. He is definitely one of the best out there. His match with Shingo Takagi at Best of the Super Juniors this year was absolutely fantastic. His match with Dragon Lee a couple days later was awesome as well. But unfortunately, he is not the winner. Sami Callihan, great year for this guy. He is your World Heavyweight Champion for Impact Wrestling. What can you say about that? Adam Cole, at the end of last year, made a promise that the Undisputed Era would be holding all the gold coming out of 2019. And they are going to be holding all the gold by the end of this year, as they are all champions right now. Guy is one of the best promoters out there, great stage presence, one of the most loved guys out there. Yes, the Undisputed Era are heels, but fans don't want to boo the Undisputed Era. for Adam Cole is a winner of this. He is absolutely one of the best out there. Cody Rhodes and Chris Jericho. This one was a toss-up between these two. I can't say it any other way. But my male superstar of the year is Chris Jericho. This guy, still, in his day and age, 50, almost 50, I think he's almost 50 or 50 years old, doing what he does. No, he's not the best wrestler in the world anymore. He's not one of the best. He is the complete package, though. He's elevated AEW to where it is. First ever World Heavyweight Champion, going out there, giving you promos that WWE superstars wish they could do. Going out there and just being that despicable heel that nobody wants to see being heavyweight champion, but appreciative of the fact that he is going out there, elevating a guy like Darby Allin, elevating a guy like Jungle Boy, making anybody who goes into the ring with him look better. Chris Jericho has done more for AEW than anybody else. Has done more for the wrestling business this year than anybody else. NXT takeovers of the year. There was a bunch of takeovers this year, 7 including the 2 from, of course, across the pond. But which one could be the best? There is no doubt about it to me. The best takeover of the year was NXT TakeOver 25. You had Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole in their best match. Shayna Baszler, Io Shirai, all the matches in between. This was absolutely, I think, the quintessential best takeover of the year. Unfortunately, it did not have the match of the year. The match of the year between Jon Moxley and Tomohiro Ishii from G1 Climax 2019, Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi from Best of Super Juniors Finals, Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano at TakeOver 25, Dustin versus Cody Rhodes at AEW Double or Nothing, all beaten out by the one and only Walter versus Tyler Bates. No match that I have seen this year was better than this match. This was David versus Goliath to a T. This was the best match I have seen in a long while. Just the fact that Tyler Bates kept fighting back to win the NXT UK Championship. This title meant so much to him. He wanted to get this off of Walter so badly. He would go and do everything that he could to win this match, but unfortunately it lasted 40-some minutes. It was not enough, and Walter was your winner. This by far, match of the year in my book. And with that, that is your 2019 Unscripted Awards for this year. Thank you all for listening to this, watching on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at The France Club. Find me on twitch.tv/The France Club. Go check out The France Plays, where I have a lot of good gaming content and more hopefully to come soon. And I'll see you guys Tuesday for Monday Night Raw, and so on and so forth, as we are back in the saddle for everything coming up soon. Until then, my name is The France, and I'll see you guys later.